This video is sponsored by Protect America, a leader in home security systems. We have arranged for you to receive a free indoor camera and doorbell camera when you take advantage of their services. Keep your family safe and check out their website using the special link on the screen or in the description box. Welcome to the Maximum Impact Theory podcast. This is your host, Tim Rosanelli, here with my producer, Justin Olivieri.
Hey, yo.
All right, guys. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about some health issues. And Justin, I have a question for you. And this comes up a lot. Can you eat too healthy? Can you eat too healthy? What do you think? Should I give a little background to it?
I think you can, because the misconception of eating healthy would be like it's not the conception of eating healthy is not correct. Like some people think vegans are the most healthy, when in reality they're probably not the most healthy because they're not getting vital nutrients, especially to certain blood types. Like I know O positive needs proteins that are only found in red meat.
Yeah.
So I think you could be eating too healthy by the point of not getting all the nutrients because you're trying to stay away from certain things. But can you actually eat too healthy if you're very informed about what you're eating? I don't think so.
Yeah, because the reason why I bring this up is a few years ago I did what's called the Whole30 diet, which is kind of a healthy diet, and I got really into it. And so I followed the diet for almost 5 or 6 months, and I lost a lot of weight on it. And I had comments from people a lot saying when they found out what I was doing that I was eating too healthy. And I always thought, boy, that's kind of weird. I mean, I'm just eating the Whole30 diet's just eating healthy meat, vegetables. You're avoiding milk, wheat products, those kind of things. And I think beans and processed sugars, things like that.
Yeah.
And I was avoiding those for 5 to 6 months, and I felt great. But some people brought up the idea of being too it's being too healthy, and I've kind of went around, and I guess my thinking has kind of evolved on this over time, because like you said, people a lot of times have the wrong conception of maybe what healthy is, which could actually lead to being unhealthy. And even on this diet, even though I lost a lot of weight on it and everything, there might be some value to every once in a while being really bad. And the reason why I say that is because, for example, if you're avoiding wheat all the time, then you're probably going to start showing signs of some kind of a gluten intolerance or sensitivity, because your body or your gut's no longer producing the enzymes that would break that down, so that you would actually have signs of some kind of gluten intolerance for it. Now, we were talking earlier about this doesn't mean eating Captain Crunch every day as a health diet, but I don't know. Do you think that if you have Captain Crunch every week, it would be okay?
I mean, also portion size. You're having the biggest bowl in the house, or you're having the same amount you're giving your kids or something.
When you eat, going off subject, but you're eating Captain Crunch and you fill up the bowl and put the milk in there and you eat the whole bowl, and then you're like, well, there's still a little bit of milk on the bottom, and then you add some more, and then you're like, oh, well, I need some more milk, and next thing you know, you're eating 3 bowls instead of 1. Did you ever do that?
Yeah, definitely. Now I have a question for you. So I love Captain Crunch. Do you like Captain Crunch, or do you like Crunch and Berries?
Oh, see, this is an interesting question,
because breakfast questions.
When I was a kid, and I liked the peanut butter Captain Crunch.
I don't think I've ever had the peanut butter.
Yeah, I haven't eaten it for years.
Peanut butter Crunch instead of I'm torn. I think I like the Crunch and Berries only because it's more interesting, but I like the regular Captain Crunch as well.
The regular Captain Crunch is good. I remember. Well, I haven't eaten these in years, by the way, guys. I don't eat any kind of cereal anymore.
He doesn't drink soda. He doesn't.
But I remember when I was younger, I used to love the peanut butter. I liked the regular Captain Crunch, but I didn't like how it scratched your mouth.
Oh yeah.
So you'd have to soak it in the milk for a while.
and
know,
then
just,
your mouth feels all like waxy afterwards if
Yeah.
you eat enough.
yeah.
They have Halloween. The Halloween stuff's coming out now. They have Halloween Captain Crunch.
Oh,
where,
okay.
like there's like little like balls or whatever in it. Like
What
in
color?
in the actual thing, and it turns.
Are they like orange? Or
It's so no, they're normal. They're a little darker. But they turn your milk green.
they turn
The milk green because they have like little things in like the actual cereal that'll turn the milk green. And
That's
so,
when you really know that cereal isn't healthy for you, because when it turns your milk a color, I don't know. It seems like there's something unhealthy.
I was watching
about
this
that.
cooking. I was watching this cooking show. I know we're way off topic now, but I was watching this cooking show where,
Well, off topic is just what we do.
they were trying to make a dessert, right?
Yeah.
And it was like Guy Fieri's. They were doing it in a grocery store, and they had to like get things from a grocery store and make like these like really nice things, but they were all professional chefs. So it was like professional chefs against each other. And this one dude made icing out of cereal milk. And they're like, "What's cereal milk?" He's like, "I took the cereal and I soaked it in the milk, then I strained the milk out.
Okay.
And then I had that milk and then I turned that into icing."
Oh man.
And they loved it. They thought it was like the next crack cocaine, like.
Yeah, well, I guess that that's just adding a whole like different flavor.
But I thought it
to the
was
food.
genius. He's like, "Who doesn't like the cereal milk at the end?" I was like, you know what? He's got a point there.
Yeah, yeah. I think what's his name? Guy
Fieri.
Yeah, I love that drive-in dives.
Driving dives. Yeah.
And what is it? There's 3 of them, but I love that show. That's a funny.
Yeah.
He's a good host for that show. Well, now that we're totally off topic.
Oh, let's get to being healthy and working out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and just as a disclaimer, I don't eat Captain Crunch every day.
I don't either. I actually am not a huge breakfast person. I'll eat cereal sometimes. I'll do. I love cream chip beef. It's like probably my favorite breakfast. And I'll do waffles, but the very few times I do waffles, I have to put a lot on it, like blueberries and chocolate syrup and
I'm totally
butter.
I'm a totally an eggs and potatoes.
I like
breakfast.
scrapple a lot.
Oh yeah. My wife doesn't like that because she says it's all the bad parts of the pig, and I said, yeah, but it just tastes so good. You have to eat it to enjoy it.
It's so bad, but it's just so good.
I grew up on that though, so I guess that.
Dude, my
makes
grandparents
sense.
lived. Well, one of them got sick, but my grandparents lived till they were very old, and they ate, drank wine all the time, and they had lard and scrapple and bacon and all that stuff every morning.
See, we're talking about maybe we are eating too healthy, because I mean you hear all these stories about our grandparents and how they would eat like bacon every day and pure butter on everything.
Well, we have a podcast
and they live
in
to
the works.
100.
We have a podcast in the works where it talks about the food pyramid and some of the misconceptions and the reasons why.
Yeah, the pyramid. Well, we should call that one maybe the
pyramid
scheme. Scheme or something. Well, we're going to get into the next topic, and what we're talking about today is body types and
workout tips, being healthier,
tips.
Benefits of exercise. So, couple things. Exercise is very important, but a lot of people have trouble enjoying it and making time for it.
Yeah.
But it is very important. So, we were talking about our mindsets.
Yeah.
A mindset of, okay, so I am going to make sure I make time for this.
Yeah.
And I said making time because people say, oh, I don't have time. It's like you can sacrifice other things if you want to be.
But like our one episode we were just talking about, maybe the best thing is to make workout as part of your daily routine.
Yeah.
Instead of making it, hey, I have to go to the gym. Maybe there's work around the house that you kind of think as, a workout, or, take a walk in nature, or make things that you enjoy part of your exercise plan. I really like kayaking, which is a great upper body workout. But when I go out there, I'm not thinking to myself, oh, I'm working out. I'm just having fun doing it.
Yeah.
And I think if you start changing your perspective on how you think of working out,
But you
it's
are
going to be a lot
sore
better.
afterwards, so you knew you were working out.
Yeah. The next day you can kind of, you kind of feel it. Yeah.
All right. Some benefits are it helps prevent heart disease, especially if it runs in your family, just because you have those genes that aren't,
Yeah.
the best against heart disease. Exercise definitely.
Oh, so sitting in front of a TV all the time doesn't help my heart disease?
No.
Oh, okay.
Helps lower blood pressure. It helps protect against strokes. It helps protect against arthritis. The more you move, the better you're gonna feel especially when you're older. It helps prevent type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
It also helps you mentally. It helps decrease depression. It helps you relieve anxiety and stress. Even a 10-minute brisk walk a day can make you feel happier, relaxed, and less anxious.
I think one thing about when I like doing walking and exercise.
Yeah.
But one of the main things, and especially walking, I don't know why, walking for me, a lot of people like, oh, I have so much work to do, and they avoid doing exercise because of work, or they're mentally feeling low, or their energy's levels low. But I find every time I walk, that's when I get my best ideas. I swear it works every time. If I'm thinking about something, I take a walk.
Yeah.
And for some reason, taking a walk really helps me get like great ideas. That's where I get all my ideas. And I actually a lot of times will walk, and as I'm walking, I have to put notes, write down notes so I won't forget.
In an earlier episode, we were talking about how we both get a bunch of ideas while we're mowing the lawn.
Yeah, mowing the lawn.
And just it's mundane tasks that you don't need a lot of brain power for.
Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of people, they try to avoid the mundane tasks, thinking that their thought, their thoughts are better or clear or whatever, that it's going to take away from clear thinking, but it actually adds to it.
Yeah. When people are diagnosed with depression, or if you just feel down in the dumps, exercise is an excellent way, because you get dopamine levels up, you get a lot of chemicals start flowing in your brain. And exercise, our bodies were built to move and built to do things.
Yeah.
And when people, I know people have jobs where they can't really, use their body to their full potential, or, move around a lot. So you have to do that, on your free time when you're not working.
Think how many times you want to work out, and you get home from work and you're tired and you don't feel like doing it. And then you force yourself to do it. And then after you do it, you feel great and you're thankful that you did it. So maybe sometimes you have to kind of think in your mind like, hey, I know I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important switch people need for their in order to get out there and get active. And then it will have all that protection against things like depression and things like that. Kickboxing, I mean, there's nothing better for depression than beating on a kickboxing bag.
I always make the joke that, hey, if you have somebody's face you want to print out, we'll tape it on the bag for you.
I've made that joke before. But I always put a disclaimer: as long as it's not me.
I'm fine if it's me.
Oh, you're fine with you?
I'm fine with that. As long as they're not actually punching me, get it out.
There you go.
And doctors also prescribe getting exercise along with antidepressants, because it really does help, raise your mood. It also helps you with your sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, try getting some more exercise. A tired body, just easier to go to sleep. It'll relax your mind. The one thing you want to make sure that you don't do is don't work out or exercise before you go to sleep, because it does raise your energy levels and then you won't be able to go to sleep. I used to do that in high school.
Oh yeah,
I used to
I did it too.
I used to work out right before I went to bed, and then I'd sit there and toss and turn, and I was like, oh, why can't I go to sleep? Eventually my body got used to it. Yeah. And I just go straight to sleep.
I remember,
probably because I was really tired. But
I remember I used to do karate classes, and I think we were done at 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then you drive home, and I just knew I wouldn't even try to go to sleep. I mean, I could tell I was hyped up. So
when
I
get
just
home, I can't
for
sleep for a couple hours.
Yeah.
From work, just because you're moving around. So I want to talk about the 3 body types. First, we're going to do a classification of the 3 body types. Ectomorph.
Can I say something about this too? When you were looking up this, these are apparently not hard, fast rules because everybody has different definitions, right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of a accumulation of all the research that we've done and tried to figure out what the best information was for each
Hopefully people aren't looking at listening to this podcast in public because people are going to look at them weird. Because ectomorphs are identified as having shoulders the same width or narrower than their hips. They have a hard time gaining fat or muscle. And if you take your middle finger and your thumb and you wrap it around your wrist and your fingers overlap slightly or a lot, you're probably an ectomorph.
Okay, and that's really skinny.
That's really skinny, can't gain muscle or fat very easy. People are, it's the type that grandmas are always saying, eat. You need some more meat on your bones.
Sounds like when I was a kid and my Italian parents were trying to always overfeed me and
now,
my
kids
brother.
are different. This is more for adults, maybe like later teenage years and stuff like that when your body's kind of figuring out what it did.
Yeah.
Mesomorph have shoulders wider than their hips, and their upper body usually has that V shape to it.
Okay.
Where they have wide shoulders, narrower hips. They have their lats basically make a V, like a really athletic looking build. When they wrap their fingers around their wrist, their fingertips just touch. And they have an easy time keeping off fat and a pretty easy time growing muscle. Endomorphs, their shoulders are the same size as their hips usually. They have a harder time losing fat, and when they encircle their wrist with their fingers, they don't touch.
Big
like
boned.
Mine, I got like a good solid 1.5 inches between where my fingers go. Now I have short fingers, but
that was going to be my next question for you. Are you shredded or jacked? Shredded would be like really skinny, but you could see a lot of muscle. And then jacked is like a really big guy, and I guess Meso is kind of in between.
Yeah.
What do you think you are? What do you think you are?
What do you mean?
Like, where would you classify yourself?
So I took a test.
Oh, okay.
Bodybuilder.com has a test where they ask you questions and then they tell you. So I'm slightly more endo than meso, but I'm a pretty good mix of the two. And I got like 3% ecto in there.
3%. So you're really the
so
skinny.
I gain muscle easy and fat, but I have the right body proportions and athletic build to be athletic.
Oh, okay.
Is basically.
I didn't take the test, but I would guess that I'm probably more.
We'll do it right now. I can tell you what the questions were. So
okay.
When you wrap your hand around your wrist.
Yeah.
They just touch.
Yeah, they just touch.
All right, so that's a meso.
Okay.
And then
See, I was going to guess. Can I guess first?
Yeah,
Can I guess
ahead.
first? My guess is I'm between meso and ecto.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Keep going.
I think you're more meso than ecto. Actually, let's get
what's the rest of the test?
So then the one is, are your shoulders wider than your hips?
Yeah, I would say they are. Yeah.
So that's a meso.
Mm-hmm.
And then another one is when you buy jeans, regular fit jeans, is your butt tight in them? Are your glutes tight? Or they fit just right? I know you talked about how your glutes are usually tight in your pants when you buy them.
Oh yeah. I have to get the loose fitting jeans because I got a little bit of booty.
Yeah. So that's an endo.
And I've always been that way. Yeah.
That's an endo. And then they talk about do you gain fat easy? Do you gain muscle easy? Do you find it a hard time keeping off the pounds?
See, it's kind of funny because, when I was younger, I mean, I could eat anything and stay skinny. Now, I don't have the full V cut because I used to always say I always had like a little bit of a love handle on the side even when I'm thin. Yeah. So I have a little bit of love handle. If I folded myself over, I'd be a suitcase.
I think that you're a good mix of a endo and a meso, but a lot more meso than endo. I think you have some endo traits with a meso. Yeah. Primary body type.
Now, these body types, how there's two types: fast twitch, slow twitch muscles.
Those don't have anything to do with it.
Okay.
But most meso will have that.
I think meso would be
because
more
I know
fast twitch.
You're born with a certain set of fast twitch, slow twitch. the really fast people like sprinters and NFL like wide receivers and stuff. They have a majority of fast twitch. Now I know that
And
you have
long distance runner would be have the slow twitch.
Yeah, you have slow twitch, you have fast twitch, and then you have some in the middle that you can train one way or the other.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that Mesomorph would be more fast twitch.
Because I know
Endomorph would be more slow twitch, because slow twitch is also good for picking heavy things up and stuff.
I think I would have more fast twitch because I'm not really a great long distance runner, but I can get my heart rate up really high for short periods of time really well.
Yeah.
And I have a really fast. I actually did testing at Long Island University, and I have a really quick recovery. What do they call it? Your VOX max. I have a really high at the time. This was when I was in my 20s, so it might be different now. But I had a really high VOX max.
Gotcha.
And everything. So
all right. So moving on to Endomorph. The shoulders are usually the same size as their hips, or slightly wider. Not like a big one. Not a big difference like Mesomorph.
So you're saying they're a little beefy.
Yeah. Harder time losing
Big bone.
fat, and when you encircle your fingers, they do not touch.
Okay.
Now you're like we talked in the beginning. You're most likely a mix of the two because the ecto, meso, and endo are considered extreme types.
Okay.
So if you were all meso, or all endo, or all ecto, there are some out there, but those are considered like extreme, like an extreme case. Yeah.
So you would be somewhere fall between ecto and meso, or you could fall between
meso and endo.
Yeah.
You rarely do endo and ecto.
Endo and ecto. Okay, because
that's
be skinny fat.
That's either you can't like so. Ecto is you can't gain muscle or fat. Endo is it's easy to do both.
Yeah.
So
so
there's poor souls out there that can't gain any muscle like the ecto, but then they get the can gain fat like the endo.
Yeah. Yeah. So they basically have no fat, or they have
no
fat
muscle
and no
all
muscle.
Fat. They got the body type of a jellyfish.
Yeah. So when you're if we're classifying you athletically, there's better sports, okay, that you can go into for different body types. So if you are a little bit more meso and endo, right, you would be like your sumo wrestlers, your power lifters, things like that. If you were more of a runner, like a long distance runner, you'd probably be more meso and ecto. So if you're endo and ecto, what sport do you play?
It would
video games.
It would depend on if you're more endo or more ecto. Are we talking about the jellyfish body type?
Yeah, the jellyfish body type.
First thing that comes to mind is like you probably could be pretty good at competitive eating.
Yeah.
If you had to go into a sport, like if you had to go into a sport, probably train for competitive eating.
Or video games.
Yeah, be a gamer, something that's not athletic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That's you basically
work on your personality.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So you could be a
because
funny
people
talk
are
show
gonna
host?
people are gonna blame you for their health insurance being so high.
Oh yeah, okay. So you better be able to make them laugh.
Yeah, and it's not. Those are the people where it's not in your control. You kind of just gotta like play with the cards that you were dealt.
Yeah.
And
so these
just
guys,
be a pleasant person and train for something that doesn't take athletic, like be a really good speller or
So you're
be
saying
a
that these
trivia
guys
buff.
they didn't hit the genetic lottery where it was good.
Oh, they did. It's just that's the genetic lottery, but it's not
in reverse. What would be the reverse?
It's like
of the
losing the lottery. It's
Yeah.
losing the genetic lottery instead of winning it.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to be a jellyfish,
Well, you gotta wear it, whatever you got.
Yeah.
But that's funny.
So where were we? So you could be a mix, right? Hopefully our listeners out there, got some good genetics from mama and papa.
Yeah.
Now for ectomorphs, if you want to build muscle, it's recommended to try heavier weight training with slower workout pace and longer reps. or longer rest. Sorry,
Longer rest.
longer rest periods.
This
because
is the very skinny type.
yes, the very skinny type, because your body is really great at burning calories, and you need those calories to build muscle mass. So if your heart rate is elevated the whole time, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage to build muscle mass. So you want heavy weights, short sets, and then long rest periods to make sure that your heart rate isn't up.
Are we eating more carbs then? Or
I didn't
protein?
write down the eating aspect because this is more workout tips.
Oh, okay.
But we can
Okay.
talk about that maybe in our food pyramid, or eating healthy, or can you eat too healthy?
Yeah, because there is
episode.
definitely a calorie intake.
When I
that's
was doing
probably
my
very
research,
important.
there was eating recommendations. I just didn't put them in here.
Yeah.
Ectomorphs body type excels at mountain climbing, long distance running, cycling, swimming. Those things where you can have a small dense muscle that's really fast twitch, or just like mountain climbers, they have to be really strong, like tensile strength, almost like their fingers and wrists and arms have to be strong to pull themselves up. Like, you ever see speed climbing?
Oh yeah.
Most of those guys are really
crazy.
skinny, but they throw themselves up the cliff, I swear.
Oh man, those guys are crazy.
And
Did you
so,
ever see those guys?
so that's like an ectomorph, where they don't have a lot of body weight and they can't really gain a lot of body weight, but they can make their muscles really strong.
Yeah.
For their body type, not against, like, if you take a speed, mountain climber and Brian Shaw, obviously Brian Shaw would be better to move, your furniture out of your house. But,
Yeah.
Now, mesomorphs, if you're looking to build muscle, try moderate to heavy weight training and make sure your rest periods aren't too long. So you want to try to keep, because you don't have a hard time gaining muscle, but you have a harder time gaining fat, but it still can happen. So you want to make sure that you are, you keep that, your heart rate slightly elevated. You make sure that you get into, those medium. You can do medium weights, like bodybuilders are mixed between medium. They usually don't do really heavy weights, but you can.
Yeah.
And then you're an athletic body type. You excel at pretty much everything.
I would think the meso type too. They don't have to worry. They probably have less worry about exact workouts, because they can kind of be a little bit more like, oh, if I'm doing this type of sport, they would adjust their workout, and they would naturally go towards that.
But this is this is if you want to try to build muscle.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So if you're trying to build muscle, you want medium to heavier weights.
So we're not talking about sports specific type.
No, we're just talking about if you're trying to build muscle and just look more swole.
Swole. Okay.
Now you have an athletic body type. You pretty much excel at everything when you're a mesomorph. So those include running, cycling, swimming, weightlifting, all the sports for mesomorphs. You really won't have that much trouble. You just have the ergonomics for it. And then we have endomorphs, beefy dudes. You have them
jacked.
You have a body type for growing muscle.
Actually, we're talking about how to get jacked here.
Yeah. You have a body type for growing muscle. Heavy weight training will help you with your muscle growth. So those heavy weights. Some people
heavy weights, low rep.
So heavy weights. You want to take less frequent breaks, and you want to take shorter breaks because you want to keep that heart rate up. Now for fitness, when you want to get a good fat muscle ratio, so muscle will help you burn your fat faster. And lifting even after lifting, you have that burn effect because your body's taking calories. Yeah, building calories and taking those calories and turning it into muscle. So your goal for lifting is to maintain a lower body weight, fat ratio. So you're really trying to build those muscles up, those heavy weights. Shorter rest periods, less frequent rest periods, and then you'll get that afterburn as well. Now
we're going to the chart that looks like a kernel of corn.
Well, first we're going to talk about what endomorphs are good, what sports they're good at.
Yeah.
So they're really good at, power.
Mhm.
They're really good. They're really strong. They're stronger than any other body type. So
So this is
powerlifting.
the bigger bodied person.
Yeah. So
'Cause
powerlifters.
I get confused because endo and ecto are so close. So I like to just mention
Yeah.
that we're talking about the bigger bone type
Yeah.
of athlete.
They're powerlifters. Most linemen are, a
Sumo
lot of
wrestlers.
Yeah, sumo wrestlers. Basically, big strong guy does blank is what
Yeah.
Endomorph will excel at. Now we talked about the mixed body types, and there's and how that's common, and it gives you certain strengths and weaknesses. And so we have this chart, and we'll probably put it as like the cover photo for this episode, so
Yeah.
you guys can see it. Kind of blurry, so sorry about that. But at the top, it has
It looks
extreme
like
Mesomorph.
a kernel of corn.
Yeah, that's like the tip of a whatchamacallit, candy corn.
Candy corn, yeah.
Yeah.
So at the top,
It says extreme Mesomorph. So we said there's extreme types, and then on the right side it goes down to extreme Ectomorph. So between a Meso going to Ecto is a gymnast. Then going farther towards Ecto would be a sprinter, and then a rugby player, and then a tennis player, and then it says rugby player Union's second row. I'm assuming this is a British version because they say USA footballer on the one side. But basically that means like the bigger guys, the stronger guys. Or I'm sorry, no, the faster guys. They would
Faster
be
guys,
yeah,
yeah.
the faster guys. And then a high jumper, like when you're getting pretty close to Ectomorph. And then at the top, we have Mesomorph again, and then you're going down to the left towards Endomorph, which is the bigger guys. You have weightlifters, and then going more towards the Endomorph, you have a NFL player, and then you have wrestlers, and then sumo wrestlers. They're about between a Mesomorph and an Endomorph.
yeah.
If you're not like super, the sumo wrestlers are big and chunky,
Yeah.
but they do have a lot of strength.
Well, they have to have muscle, yeah.
Yeah, they're
They have
really
the
strong.
Muscle mass behind them.
And the reason that they train to actually be heavier is because the heavier you are and the stronger you are, the harder you are to get pushed out of the ring.
Yeah, to get moved.
Yeah. And I know you always talked about this book called Faster, Stronger, Higher. And I think it has some stuff to do with that. So if you want to
Well, they in the book he goes over a lot of the research, and they have very specific ideas of what they need for different sports. So and they're getting really granular with this. That they know that you need to have for certain sports height requirements. For example, I mean, even in a sport like football, you're not going to see a quarterback that's short.
Yeah, they got to see over the line.
They got to see over the line. They have to be able to see the whole field. So
I think you got to be like 6'2", 6'3", and like 6'2", I think is a little smaller. So
yeah,
you want to be 6'3" and above.
Yeah, I had a relative, and they were like, they thought that their kid was going to be the next
Tom
pro,
Brady.
yeah, Tom Brady and everything, and he was like, and the first thing that came to my mind was he was my height, and he was only 6 foot or something like that, or 5'11", and I'm 6'1", and I said to one of the other relatives, I'm like, hey, he's too short to be a quarterback actually in the NFL. And he's like, oh, don't tell his dad that, because he would get really upset. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess that's a kind of touchy point. But that's how granular a lot of these things are, is they can actually test you to determine, where you stand. Another thing that's really important is I talked about the VO max is very important, which is how much oxygen you can process in your body. Almost every sport, not just a few sports, you need to have this higher level of being able to consume oxygen in your body, process it quicker. Otherwise, there's no way you're going to be able to keep up in that sport.
I remember you talking about rowing.
Oh yeah. Well, the
as
rowing,
one of those sports.
Yeah, the rowing. Wait, was it the rowing? They gave an example of somebody in the book, and I think it was they went from biking to rowing, and he was actually debunking the theory about doing 10,000 hours as being really important, and starting in one sport really young and staying with it. And what they found is that it is important to get the hours in, but you could actually be doing a sport earlier, in your life, like through your teenage years.
Yeah.
And it might not be the perfect sport for your body type. And then you transition to a better sport for your body type. And then all of a sudden you could be a gold medalist. And they had I think it was I might have this wrong. I think it was a person who did biking and was
Olympic
kind of like
cyclist or something.
But they were only average level. And then in Britain, I think they were looking for people with certain qualities, and this person had it, and they trained him to row. And in like 15 months or something really short period of time, they became one of the best rowers and won the gold medal. And and everybody's like, well, that's why the 1,000-hour thing doesn't always work, because but as long as you're doing
1,000-hour plus,
you have to do some kind of exercise.
Yeah, it's 1,000-hour plus
10,000. It's actually 10,000 hours.
And then plus what your body type is.
Yeah. Well, you don't even have.
It's the golden formula.
They said you don't have to do 10,000 hours exactly in your sport, and there's different amount of hours that you need for different activities. So some sports you might be able to transition from one sport to another and be at an elite level, even if you didn't do it before.
Like rowing probably doesn't have as much technique as like basketball to master.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's technicals, like, I'm sure there's like angle of the oar, but I think that's a lot more conditioning.
Yeah.
To do with it than basketball, where it's a lot of skill and a lot of like memory, muscle memory involved in it.
Yeah, and they were just think of an example of a really good violinist. You can't just be playing the flute and hand somebody a violin and expect them to be a really good violinist in a short period of time. It takes a lot of practice to get the fingering right and things like that, because it's like there's a lot of you got to be more precise. There's a lot more precision to that. But if you have rowing, is just one basic motion that you have to master, and you just have to have you have to be able to row at a certain speed, have a certain timing, and also a certain cardio level to do it. And if you have those things, then you can train somebody to be at the elite level of that sport. But I don't know if, like, for example, a lot of the strategy sports, I don't think you would be able to do that. If you're going to be a football player, I think it would be really hard to not play football and then all of a sudden go into college and start playing and try to be at an elite level. I don't know if
at
that
a
would
college level.
Yeah, at a college level.
Yeah,
I think that's there's probably sports that you have to start a lot earlier, and then there's sports that you can kind of catch up to later in life.
Well,
if you're
things
doing something
like football and basketball, there's a lot of back knowledge too.
Yeah,
like there's schemes, there's plays you gotta know. There's even defensive players. Like people think that the defensive player, you just rush the ball, or whoever has the ball, you go tackle them. Mm-hmm. But like they're really smart. Like this past Eagles game, Minnesota Vikings, their defensive players were actually telling hand signals, telling the whole team what our next play was going to be, because they were watching all the tape and they were reading our guys, and so they knew exactly what play we were going to play, so it's easier for them to defend it.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it too, talking about this kind of knowledge, is you'll see a lot of in those kind of sports, you'll see a lot of multi-generational athletes. In other words, their dad played and got to a high level, and then their kids play and get to a high level. And the reason probably why is because they have some specific knowledge within their family from playing the sport that they can transfer from generation to generation.
Mannings, like the Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, and their dad was in the NFL, and
Yeah, you see that a lot, and I think it's probably more than just the fact that their dad would be into it and them doing it, and they've seen their dad, but their dad would be able to have specific knowledge that some average kid that's dad didn't play at a higher level wouldn't be able to communicate to their kid at a very early age.
Yeah.
So that, and those kind of sports, I don't know if you could, I think you would have to start pretty early. If you're going to be a quarterback of a football team, I don't think you're going to be learning how to do that in college.
And by early, you don't mean like 5, 6, 7 years old. You're talking about like freshman in high school, something like that.
Yeah, freshman in high school at least, I would think. But
yeah, maybe middle school. Just getting the basics down.
Yeah, I think you'd need some training on getting.
Because I know like
down.
timing for tackling something, you have to learn. Just a lot of those things.
And being able to read, difficult schemes.
Yeah, or just reading people's body language so you can get them correctly.
It's very similar to martial arts when you spar, because it becomes so instinctual that you don't even know why you're able. I don't know. In my sparring experience, you start to get to a level where you know when something's happening and able to counter it without even consciously knowing you're doing it. Because
and you don't think about it till afterwards either.
Yeah, you're not even thinking about it, and it would be really hard for you to even communicate it to somebody unless they've actually been in that kind of scheme and have handled that situation before.
It's like your brain starts working in two different parts.
Yeah.
One's like, we're on the defensive side and we're just going to make it happen. And then you got the other side, which is like thinking about what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Offensively.
I've always thought, and I don't know, this might be just a theory I'm throwing out there, but we have a logical part of our brain and the creative part of our brain.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that when I sparred, it's almost like your brain knows what to do, but it's not thinking about it so much. You're not thinking about it. And I think you actually might be using the creative part of your brain that doesn't really have a verbal language type to tell you what to do, but it just does it. And the people that just try to think through everything, they kind of overthink things.
Yeah. And
then they have trouble, doing it on the fly when you're sparring. So it's actually when you're sparring, it turns into almost like a very creative thing because you are actually just responding instinctually to the situation. Now you might be thinking about it in training and when you practice and everything, and you start developing the schemes, but then at some time those schemes have to kind of develop to an extent of being in your unconscious brain.
Yeah.
And maybe I think there's a little bit of a connection to the way we teach self-defense. We always talk about we're training the frog brain, not the intellectual brain, and trying to get you to respond in a certain way in a high intensity type situation. So that's kind of my thoughts on those kind of skills that you're trying to learn and everything. So
good stuff.
All right, well, I think that we can end the podcast right here.
I just have a message for all of our jellyfish body types. We love you guys.
Yeah, and don't give up hope.
Just take our advice. Go listen to the Don't Be a Boring Person podcast.
Yeah.
That'll help you out.
And
you gotta be an engaging person. Looks aren't everything.
Training still in even if you hit the genetic lottery that's not good.
Yeah, that you didn't win.
You're going to do a lot better even with exercise and a fitness program. You're still going to see gains, and
especially with just the physical or the healthy,
In fact, I would
benefits
say
and the mental benefits of it.
I would say I would basically say that those type of people, probably it's more important for them to get out there and exercise, even if they are clumsier or whatever. It's probably important for them to do it. So,
and we're not talking about teenage clumsy. I would look at doorways and run into them on accident.
Oh yeah, we were both the type that grew real fast.
Yeah, I grew 8 inches in 4 months.
And I don't know how fast I grew. Really fast when I was in junior high, and I remember being awkward for a couple years. It took a little while for my muscles to get able to handle the size of my body.
So you younger audiences out there, you'll get through it.
All right.
Happen.
All right, guys. So we're going to end the podcast right here. If you want to contact us, make sure that you send us an email at thetheory@maximpactkarate.com. Also, if you're on a platform where you can comment, make sure you comment and give us any ideas that you might have for us to talk about. And we'll see you in the next podcast.